Beyond the possible filing of cases, I wish to highlight the suffering and abuse that many trafficking victims have endured at the hands of these evil.
Alam ko, ibabas na naman ako na DDS pagkatapos nito. Gusto kong makinig kayong lahat. Alamin nyo nung una ang batas. Bago nyo kami murahin, bago nyo kami latiin, alamin nyo muna ang batas.
Ito na nga, Dan Fernandez at Benny Abante, labis ang takot sa hakbang na gagawin ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Pero bago ang lahat, maaari kayong mag-subscribe para maging updated sa mga issue at bagong mga balita. Bahag nga ang buntot at nabalian ng pangilitong si Benny Abante at Dan Fernandez nang magmakaawa ito matapos pakasuhan ni President Rodrigo Duterte dahil sa ginawa nitong kabulastugan sa Kongreso. Narito ang buong detalye.
Of reckoning has come. Nakalagay po sa Matthew chapter 7 and verse number 2. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again. Kung iniisip po natin na magagawa mo ang gusto mong gawin, na hindi mo sinusunod ang saligang batas, dahil nasa kapangyarihan ka, nais kong sabihin, Mr. Speaker, na matatapos din ang mga bagay na yan, at ikaw ay hatulan ng taong bayan. Ito pong House of Representatives ay ang bahay po ng taong bayan. Sapagkat tayong lahat ay inelect ng taong bayan upang tayo ay magbusisi ng lahat ng katiwalaang nangyayari sa ating pamahalaan. I consider this a divine blessing to be able to rise today as the chair of the House Committee on Human Rights and co-chair of the Quad Committee to share the initial findings and recommendations of our inquiry, particularly into the extrajudicial killings that occurred during the previous administration's war on drugs. Inuulit ko po, Mr. Speaker, kakampi ako ng dating administrasyon kapag pinag-uusapan po ang pag-alis ng droga sa ating bansa. Sinabi ko po ito sa ating dating Pangulo, ang hindi ko lang maintindihan kung bakit kinakailangan merong mapatay na more than 30,000 people upang mawala ang drugs na ito. Nawala ba ang drugs? Hindi. Nandun pa rin, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, there is a season for everything and a time for every purpose under the heaven, as made clear by the Lord in chapter 3 of the book of Ecclesiastes. This is the most opportune time for the Joint Committee on Dangerous Drugs, Public Order and Safety, Public Accounts, and the Committee on Human Rights to present to you a progress report on our inquiry in aid of legislation. After 13 rigorous and thorough hearings of the so-called Quad Committee, we are confident that we have gathered substantial findings backed by competent evidence to make the requisite recommendations to this legislative body and to the appropriate government agencies for appropriate and decisive action. There was systematic violation of human rights and blatant disregard of due process. The deep probe into the extrajudicial killings, or AGKs, that occurred during the administration of former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte's war on drugs yielded a far deeper tragedy into the lives of the Filipino people rather than the protection and preservation thereof that it was heralded to accomplish. The numbers, Mr. Speaker and my dear colleagues, speak the scary truth. According to data from the Philippine National Police from July 1, 2016 to June 30 of 2022, 7,640 individuals were killed in official police operations. Of these documented deaths, 7,173 were drug pushers, 440 were drug users that should have been rehabilitated, not killed, and only 21 were drug lords. Mr. Speaker, from as far back as May 15, 2024, when my committee started digging into the EJ case, we had been presented with multiple reports indicating that there had been massive nationwide drug-related killings within the period July 2016 to June 2022. The killings were classified either as police operations or perpetrated by unknown perpetrators, which is no different from the Sinaloa type of killings in Latin America, which were notorious at the time, the drug cartel in Latin America. The 2017 year-end accomplishment report of the Duterte administration highlighted as key accomplishments, my dear Speaker, the deaths of 3,967 drug personalities and 16,355 homicide cases under investigation as of 30 September 2017. The PNP reported that there was a total of 7,640 illegal drug suspects who died in police operations, 2,053 of which were recorded in the first 6 months of the Duterte presidency from July to December 2016. No less than the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights noted that there were at least 8,663 drug-related killings as of February of 2019, while academic research, the HUS project of the Third World Studies, University of the Philippines, gathered around 5,348 recorded deaths. The Free Legal Assistance Group cited unassailable data in a Supreme Court and bank extended resolution that indicated that the Duterte administration's anti-drug war from July 1, 2016 to November 27, 2017 recorded a staggering total of 20,322 deaths, or a daily average of 39.46 deaths. Mr. Speaker, and my dear colleagues, was the war on drugs truly aimed at dismantling the drug syndicates and put an end to this illegal and immoral trade? Or was it an all-out assault on the poor and vulnerable to cover up the former? Gusto ba talaga nitong durugin ang mga drug lords at ang illegal drug industry, o durugin lamang ang mga mahihirap upang pagtakpan ang mga may kinalaman o kaugnayan sa problemang ito? Clearly, the war on drugs, while touted as the formidable solution to the country's drug menace, had resulted in the systematic violations of our constitutional rights to life, human dignity, and due process. ang sagradong buhay na tanging bigay ng poong may kapal ay hindi kailanman dapat pawiin ng sinuman. Ang sabi po ng Diyos, thou shalt not kill. But the war on drugs resonated a policy of kill, kill, kill. As the former president has always said, shoot them dead. The role of leadership in a culture of impunity. How did we get here? Paano ito nangyari? One cannot look at all the evidence and not come to this credible and undeniable conclusion that former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte's public pronouncements encouraged, facilitated, and normalized the killings and emboldened some of our policemen who are supposed to be the protectors of the people to carry out the same. His release of unverified narco lists further exacerbated the violence as individuals were targeted based on flawed, inconsistent, and malicious information. Isa sa mga biktima nito, si former Iloilo City Mayor Jed Patrick Mabilog. In 2014, then Major Mabilog was named as I quote, top 5 best and outstanding mayors in the world. In the 2014 World Mayor Awards, mula sa short list ng best mayors in the world na isama sa drug list ni Pangulong Duterte, nasira ang pangalan ni Mayor Mabilog. He was forced to relocate himself and his family to a foreign land, and he was threatened with death, all because of unverified, unreliable list. We discovered, Mr. Speaker and my dear colleagues, that the previous administration's war on drugs was fueled by a perverse reward system that incentivized extrajudicial killings under what we now know as the Davao model. Ano ang Davao model? Under this system, police officers were given monetary rewards for killing drug suspects, transforming the duty of law enforcement from a system driven by justice into a system driven by bounties. Testimonies from Police Lieutenant Colonel Jovi Espinido, Police Colonel Ruyima Garma, and other officials confirm the existence of this system. Malinaw ang testimonya nila. Salapi ng sagradong buhay, Mr. Speaker. In a civilized society that upholds the rule of law and due process, there is no rhyme or reason for such diabolical attacks on the sanctity of life on every human being. But it was President Duterte himself who provided the legal cover for those killings. The narrative of nanlaban or fought back became the legal justification for these operations, as Fprrd himself encouraged officers to provoke suspects into resisting arrest, which was he admitted in one of the hearings conducted, providing legal cover for the use of lethal force. That's the reason why I even asked the question to our former president, was your policy a personal policy, or was it based upon the Constitution? There was a grand conspiracy. In the course of our hearings, we exposed disturbing cases where killings were carried out for monetary rewards or as part of orchestrated operations. First, the 3 Chinese nationals and convicted drug lords Chu Kin-tung, Li Lanyang, and Wong Mengpin were killed under orders for a payment of 1 million pesos per person. During our hearings, person deprived of liberty, Leopoldo Tan, testified that former President Duterte personally congratulated officials involved, saying, and I quote, "Congrats, Superintendent Padilla, job well done." Pero grabe yung ginawang dinuguan. End of quote. Alam ko, ibabas na naman ako na ma-DDS pagkatapos nito. Gusto kong makinig kayong lahat. Alamin nyo nung muna ang batas. Bago nyo kami murahin. Bago nyo kami latiin. Alamin nyo muna ang batas. Sapagkat dito po, sa house na ito, ay pinaglalaban namin hindi lamang ang katuwiran ng bawat tao, kundi ang tinatawag nating sanctity of life. Second, the assassination of Police General Wesley Barayuga, na binanggit na ng aming chairman. Witnesses testified that Barayuga was killed under instructions from police officials with a reward of 300,000 pesos given for his murder. Police Colonel Grijaldo, na kinontempo namin sa aming last Qualcomm hearing. Nandito po siya ngayon. Maaaring narinig niya. Anong ginawa niya nung siya ang Chief of Police ng Mandaluyong City? Nang general na ito ay pinatay doon sa Mandaluyong, walang police report, walang investigation report, walang ginawa ang Chief of Police na ito. Siya ba'y tinanggal sa pagiging Chief of Police? Hindi, mga kaibigan. Samantalang yan palagi ang SOP ng Philippine National Police. We heard testimony that revealed that police officers had killed quotas and were rewarded for complying with them. Police Lieutenant Colonel Espinido detailed that a 20,000 peso reward was paid per kill. Yan po ang kanyang statement. Our investigation also unearthed cases where the drug war served as a tool to eliminate competition among drug syndicates. Witnesses such as Mr. Kerwin Espinosa and former police officials SPO3 Artunio Las Cañas and Police Colonel Eduardo Acerto revealed the dark reality of a policy that prioritized kill, kill, kill over jail, jail, jail. Mr. Speaker, more data revealed how every effort was made to ensure that those involved in these killings were spared from the consequences of their actions. Of the over 8,351 deaths, the PNP's Internal Affairs Service reported that 99.17% of cases resulted in the exoneration of police officers. Just imagine. Of the 32,803 policemen charged for operations, only 30 were dismissed. These numbers expose a justice system that failed the victims and their families. Out of all this bloodshed, ano naman ang naging impact sa paggamit ng droga. Mr. Speaker, the Dangerous Drugs Board admitted that the drug war resulted in only a slight decline in drug use. The figure of 4 million drug users that former President Duterte cited at the start of his term had no verified basis. Sinabi pa niya na itong si Adolf Hitler pumatay ng 3 milyon ng mga Hudyo. Mali pa ang sinabi niya. 6 million po ang napatay niya. Kaya dapat patayin ang 3 milyon ng mga drug pushers. Ganun po ba ang dapat katawiran ng isang pangulo ng isang democratic country? Hindi po tayo terorista. Hindi tayo komunista. Hindi tayo diktadorya. Tayo po ay demokrasya. Mr. Speaker, as a result of this hearing, we filed House Bill number 10986, an act classifying and penalizing extrajudicial killings as a heinous crime, providing reparation for the victims, and strengthening the mechanism for its prevention. This bill, otherwise known as the Anti-Extrajudicial Killing Act, defines extrajudicial killing as any killing other than that imposed by the state pursuant to the provisions of the Constitution on heinous crimes, or a deliberate and arbitrary killing of any person not authorized by a previous judgment pronounced by a competent court, committed by a public officer, personal authority, agent of a personal authority, or any person who is acting under the actual or apparent authority of the state. Under this measure, extrajudicial killing is classified as a heinous crime, punishable by life imprisonment. Monetary reparation between 250,000 pesos to 500,000 pesos, as well as a non-monetary reparation, will be granted to victims and their families to be determined by the extrajudicial killing claims board proposed under the bill. Sana po maging batas na po ito. Next, we recommend the passage of a death in custody or under Police Operations Act. This will institutionalize official recording and reporting of deaths during police operations in custody with mandatory annual reports as submitted to Congress, DOJ, and the CHR. The establishment of a national interagency investigative body, an independent agency tasked to investigate EJKs and the other human rights abuses committed by state and non-state actors. The creation of an independent international affairs service that is autonomous to ensure accountability free from the PNP influence. We also recommend the filing of appropriate charges against officials responsible for these atrocities. We recommend that cases be filed under Section 6, Crimes Against Humanity, under the International Humanitarian Law, Republic Act 9851, against former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, former PNP Chief Oscar David Albayalde, and former PNP Chief de Bolsinas, among others. We also recommend reparations for victims of EJKs, strengthening the Commission on Human Rights, and enacting prevention measures to ensure that none of these horrendous abuses to human rights will ever happen again. Mga kababayan, as stewards of justice and as the representatives of our people, it is our moral and sacred duty to hold the perpetrators accountable and to uphold the value of every human life. Nais ko sang sabihin sa inyo na ang distrito ko po ay drug-free. Pero walang napatay. Kahit isa. Pwede naman pala eh. Pwede naman pala na ang isang syudad, ang isang bayan, ang isang distrito, pwedeng mawala ang drugs na hindi mo kinakailangan pumatay. Mga kaibigan, my dear speaker, my dear colleagues, I know that this is a season of giving, love, and forgiveness. And may this also be a season of healing, but never giving up on justice and truth. Maraming salamat po at maligayang Pasko sa inyong lahat.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize Representative Dan S. Fernandez, Chairperson of the Committee on Public Order and Safety, to deliver his sponsorship speech.
The Honorable Dan Fernandez is recognized to deliver his sponsorship speech.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Maraming po salamat at don't worry, maikli lang po to, hindi katulad nung kay Chairman Abante na napakahaba at napaka-emotional. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues and guests in the plenary hall, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. It is my honor to present, together with my co-chairs of the Joint Committee comprising the Committee, Dangerous Drugs, Public Order and Safety, Human Rights and Public Accounts, also known as the Quadcom. This progress report outlining the facts established, evidence gathered, actions taken, and recommendations for remedial legislation concerning extrajudicial killings, illegal drugs, illegal Philippine offshore gaming operators, and anomalous transactions involving local government units in connection with these unlawful activities. To date, the Joint Committee has conducted 13 public hearings and has obtained numerous testimonies of witnesses and documentary evidence in the course of its inquiry. Mr. Speaker, the Joint Committee has identified compelling evidence that necessitates prompt and decisive legal action by the appropriate government agencies, as well as urgent legislative intervention to enact laws and policies that will effectively address these critical issues. With respect to Pogos, the Joint Committee found a discernible pattern regarding their creation and operation. It starts with foreign nationals using fake documents to acquire Filipino identities, followed by land acquisition to establish Pogo facilities. The construction of several buildings worth billions of pesos, the execution of lease agreements between two corporations with interlocking ownerships, followed by the application for Pogo license with the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation. This was also established that criminal syndicates composed of Chinese nationals pretending to be Filipino citizens operate within the country and are responsible for various criminal activities facilitated through Pogos, including human trafficking, internet scams, and money laundering. Some of these Chinese nationals have links to the drug trade. These Pogo companies include Hongsheng Gaming Technology in the Baofu compound in Bamban, were facilitated by Go Waping, also known as the former Bamban Mayor, Alice Guo. Lucky South 99, situated in the Whirlwind Corporation, leased property in Porac, Pampanga, identified with Catherine Cassandra Leong and Attorney Herminio Harry Roque Jr. At kasama rin po dito si Sean Wei Technology owned by Alan Lim, also known as Wei Xiong Lim, together with his wife, Rose Nonolin. The findings of the Joint Committee have led to the filing of cases against Guo Waping, Catherine Cassandra Leong, and Attorney Harry Roque and several other Chinese and Filipino incorporators of Pogo companies for qualified human trafficking. Money laundering cases have also been lodged against them. Aside from Guo, Ong, and Roque, the Joint Committee recommends that criminal investigations be commenced to look into the involvement of other key personalities such as Hong Ming Yang, also known as Michael Yang, his elder brother Yang Jianxin, also known as Tony Yang, and spouses Alan Lim and Rose Nono Lin into illegal Pogo activities. As a result of the joint hearings, the Anti-Money Laundering Council was directed to apply with the court for the issuance of a freeze order covering the assets related to the unlawful activities of Lucky South 99, Whirlwind Corporation, and Bian Cham Holdings. Furthermore, as a result of the findings into the illegal activities of Pogos, this representation and fellow members of the Joint Committee filed House Bill number 10987, or the proposed Anti-Offshore Gaming Operations Act. The bill seeks to establish ironclad provisions against the resurgence of Pogos in the country and repeals two laws related to the offshore gaming. Executive Order number 13, issued by former President Duterte, and Republic Act number 11590, or the law taxing Pogos. In relation to Pogos, we filed more significant pieces of legislation. House Bill number 11043, which seeks to provide for a civil forfeiture in favor of the state of any unlawfully acquired real estate properties by any foreign national. And a third measure, House Bill number 11117, which seeks to provide for the administrative cancellation of birth certificates fraudulently registered by foreign nationals. The Joint Committee has recommended several other remedial legislations, including the following: Amendment to Republic Act number 9487, further amending Presidential Decree number 1869, otherwise known as the Charter of the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation, so that PAGCOR shall have the exclusive authority to authorize, license, and regulate games of chance. Number 2, Amendment to Republic Act number 10175, or the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012, to expand the definition of service providers, widen the scope of offenses, and strengthen the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center. Number 3, Amendment to Republic Act number 10591, or the Comprehensive Firearms and Ammunition Regulation Act, to provide stiffer penalties for the illegal transfer or registration of firearms. Number 4, amendments to Republic Act number 11055, or the Philippine Identification System Act, to impose stiffer penalties for the willful falsification or sale of fake PLC's IDs. Number 5, amendment to Republic Act number 11934, or the Subscriber Identity Module Registration Act, to limit the number of blank SIM cards that are sold to resellers, or to require the pre-activation of SIM cards that are sold in bulk quantities. And lastly, amendment to the Charter of the PBDEC Industrial Authority, to empower the corporation to fully exercise its visitorial and inspection powers over all locators and service providers operating inside the industrial state located in the municipalities of Tagoloan and Villanueva in Misamis Oriental. Mr. Speaker, beyond these legislative initiatives, beyond the possible filing of cases, I wish to highlight the suffering and abuse that many trafficking victims have endured at the hands of these evil Pogo operators. The trauma, their deaths, can never be rectified by laws alone. We must fight to ensure that they obtain justice and are afforded counseling and rehabilitation. Let us not leave them by the wayside. Ang karumal-dumal na gawain na kapaloob sa operasyon ng Pogo ay isang bagay na hindi maitatago ng mga taong nakinabang sa operasyon na ito. Politiko, negosyante, mga banyaga at marami pang iba. Itago man, pilit man, ay kusa namang ilalabas ng tadhana ang katotohanan kung ano ang dilim sa likod ng operasyon ng sugal na ito na sumisira sa kaayusan at imahe ng ating bansa. Ang mga buhay na mapabanyaga man o lokal nating kababayan na kinuha ang kanilang buhay ng mga mapag-abusong tagapamahala ng mga Pogo ay ibinubulid na ang kaluluwa sa impyerno. Direct and indirect participation in the operation of Pogo must pay the price. Di po pwede nakalimutan na natin ang nakaraan at mag-move forward na tayo. We hope that the Executive Department, Mr. Speaker, through our President, Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos, will give justice to the families of the innocent people who are all victimized by these greedy crooks whose sole objective was to enrich themselves with Pogo money. Tapos na po ang mapag-abuso na kalakaran sa operasyon ng Pogo. We are in the process of cleaning and wiping out the remnants of a bad memory that will linger in the minds of our people. We must strive to bring back to our country the respect that was lost due to the legalization of the Pogo operations, and tell the whole world that this tiny nation that is living in peace and harmony has fought and won against the corruption, the atrocities, and the evilness of Pogo. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we offer this progress report to our countrymen, many of whom have tirelessly followed our hearings and have placed their trust in the Quadcom. Taus-puso po ang aming pasasalamat sa inyong walang sawang pagsubaybay, sa inyong buong suporta at tiwala. We stand with you in the pursuit of truth and justice. Maraming salamat po.